Here's the Dvar Malchut, the royal words from a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1992. Well, I don't know if it was 1992 yet. I guess it's like now. So I guess it was the end of 1991. Tafshin Nun Beit is the it corresponds. Well, it corresponds like now. So now is Tafshin Pei Hey, and it still is 24, right? So it hasn't gotten to okay. So I guess it's the end. I guess every time I said this, I made a mistake, but this is the end of 1991. Good. Okay. Now, as I said before, Chayei Sora is talking about Abraham burying his wife Sora, and he wanted to bury her in the same place that Adam was buried, even though it doesn't say that clearly in the Torah, but that's the fact. The Midrash says, and therefore he was willing to pay an exorbitant price to Ephron Achiti, an exorbitant price for the the grave and for the land around it, and etc. Bamadnu batchalato uptichato shel kenes SHLUCHIM. Okay, now this is very important, and the message is going to be very startling. What the Rebbe is going to say over here. Now, the job of Judaism is to bring Mashiach. That's the purpose of creation, and the Jews have been entrusted with this, bringing Mashiach. And Mashiach is going to be a person that's going to somehow or other bring out the potential, the good potential in every human being in the world, every human being, and he's going to do this through the Torah, by teaching Torah, by revealing the inside of the Torah. And that's what the Rebbe is doing. That's why so many people think the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Mashiach. I'm among them, but you can think whatever you want to. But and that's the job of the Mashiach. Mashiach is through Torah, right? Bringing the Jews back to Torah and doing the commandments. As by means of this, the whole entire world will be changed. The blessings will be revealed in this world. What happens when we do Torah and the commandments? It'll be revealed. It'll be a new world. Okay. In order to do this, you got to wake up the Jews, and you have to inspire Jews and educate Jews as to what is a Jew, and get Jews to do the commandments. Even just to put on tefillin, it wakes up a whole new identity inside of the Jew. It's called the godly soul. Wakes it up in all the Jews. Okay, so all the rabbis of Chabad, they were all in Russia. And the government in Russia was very oppressive. So in the time of the first Rebbe of Chabad, most of the Jews were already religious. They were religious. They were already making inroads. The intellectual movement, whatever they called it, the modern, there's a word for it. What is it called? The intellectual enlightenment. The Enlightenment movement was already making inroads. That faith is a bad thing, and etc. But generally speaking, the Jews were more or less, religious. As time went on, the Enlightenment movement, the so-called Enlightenment movement, secular, whatever is, became more and more powerful in this, until finally the communists, they overthrew the government. They overthrew the government. So then it became even a bigger enemy, and that was communism. That was worst of all, because at least in the time when there was the secular Enlightenment movement, there was also the government of Russia, which was ultra-Orthodox Christianity. So it was a clear opposition to Judaism. The Enlightenment movement, that was a little more, how do you say, what do they call it? There's a word for it. I can't slip my mind. Anyway, subversive. They subverted Judaism, right? By convincing the young people that they should think freely and think like, okay. But as soon as the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe left Russia, and he came to America, especially he came to America in 1940. So as soon as he came to America, he started spreading out Judaism. In a whole new, unheard of way. while they were in Russia, you couldn't spread out Judaism. It was a miracle just to hold on to your own Judaism. But afterwards, they came to America, so they started spreading out Judaism. And it began the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. He sent emissaries all over the world. He sent to Morocco, saved thousands, tens of thousands of Jews from assimilation. There was a French influence over there, the Alliance. And they started Chabad houses all over in the world. When the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away in 1950, so his son-in-law, who is our Rebbe right now, took over, and he took what the previous Rebbe did and really expanded it in a tremendous in a tremendous way. So there became Chabad houses in almost every place, every city where there were Jews. There were Chabad houses. And there were so many of them that there were even, how do you say, the arguments between the Chabad houses, who gets this street, who gets that street, who gets this area, who gets that area. Miraculous. Chabad houses all over. And so once a year, they made what was called a SHLUCHIM convention. The emissaries are called SHLUCHIM. And they made a SHLUCHIM convention. A convention. Excuse me. And this convention was designed to bring all of the emissaries of the Rebbe together and to discuss how to bring Mashiach better. How to bring the Mashiach better. Just 1 second. Yeah. And there's Shluchim. Now, interestingly enough, this week's Torah portion also talks about Shluchim. Talks about Shluchim. Shluchim are emissaries, representatives, that Abraham, in order to find a bride for his son, Yitzchak, and there was a very small, there were a lot of, how do you say, criteria that he had. And so there was a very small number of candidates that could get married to his son. So he sent his emissary, his trusted servant, Eliezer, and Eliezer became a shliach. He became an emissary of Abraham. So this is also talking about this, all the shluchim got together, and this is the first Torah portion, which is talking about exactly that the leader, Abraham, sends out a shliach to get a job, to marry a bride for his son Yitzchak. Now, this idea of getting a bride for Yitzchak, this is very consequential. And it's very, you want to call it, a representative of the Jewish people and God. And the world. Unifying Yitzchak, which is representative of God, and Rivka, which is representative of the world, and uniting them together. That's the whole purpose of the Jewish people. That's united. So this is all hinted at in this week's Torah portion. So the Rebbe is speaking to these shluchim, to these emissaries, and he's reminding them and inspiring them of their job to bring Mashiach. That's the whole purpose that they're here. Okay, so let's see what he had to say. Now we're in the beginning and the opening of the convention of shluchim, of the emissaries, the world convention. And when the Rebbe was speaking, there was 1,000 people came or something like that. Nowadays, there's 5,000 people. And that's only a small amount. Not everyone is able to come, and a lot of them, they didn't want to leave their Chabad house totally, so they left it in the hands of someone else. So those people also could have come, but they didn't. We're going to see in the end of this, the Rebbe said everybody, and now I'm appointing everyone to be a shlich. Everyone is an emissary. We'll see. That we're now in the beginning and the opening of this shluchim convention. These were the shluchim, the emissaries of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Nasi Dorenu. The Rebbe insisted that he is just a continuation of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And if you know anything about previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, you'll see Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. You'll see that he was the candidate for Mashiach. He had all of the qualifications of Mashiach, and he really suffered terribly, and he spread Judaism, and he fought the battles of God, and he was a tremendous Talmud genius, and etc. And all this. Okay, so the Rebbe always said that he's just an emissary, a continuation of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Which, by the way, is another reason for saying that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, our Rebbe, is the Mashiach, because the previous Rebbe was the Mashiach. Remember, we learned last week, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's the Mashiach of our generation, and I'm just carrying out his work. I'm just carrying out his work. So essentially, he's saying that he's carrying out the work of Mashiach. He's okay. So this whole thing is really talking about Mashiach. That's what CHABAD is about, Mashiach, and that's what Judaism is about, Mashiach, and that's what the world is about, Mashiach. So, but to actually bring it, so it says now we're here, and these emissaries, the SHLUCHIM, have come from all ends of the earth, from the four corners of the earth. So we have to mention first and primarily Hayesod, the foundation. Let me get this pointer here again. The foundation, and to express the goal of the shluchim in our generation, and especially the novelty which was added lately, and that is to receive the Mashiach. To receive the Mashiach, begeula amitis shlema, and the complete, total redemption. That's the purpose of CHABAD, according to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Kamadubar come upon me, like we said many times, shenosaf al nakuda mishutefet, in addition to the common point in all of the service of the shluchim, of the shlichus, of all the Jews in general, that every Jew is a messenger, an emissary of God, Bnei Yisrael in general, that they ani nivresi l'shamesh et koni. The whole purpose the Jewish people were created was to serve God. That's why Adam was created. Right? That's why I said, and no one got the point until Abraham came 2,000 years after Adam, and he got the point. I'm here only to serve God. Ubafrad, and especially the shluchim of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and all the shluchim he's speaking to, the common point which they have of all the times, and it adds on and increases from time to time in the whole idea of our mission in the world. Shlichus miyucheres, we have a special goal, and this choderes, this should permeate, and this is the gate that by means of it we go through, we pass through everything of the shlichus. How much more so in our case? We're talking about the total renewal, which is not just a detail in our service, but this is the main essence of all of our service. In fact, the most important thing in Judaism is to prepare for the coming of the Mashiach. This encompasses Shemakif, et Kol Nakuda, and all of the other details of the shlichut that we have, to be popular, to deal with children, to deal with women, to deal with the government, to deal with the local government, to get money for our institutions, receive money institutions, to teach Torah to older people, to teach for the younger people. Right now, there's all these, they're going on the internet, there's the classes. These are all wonderful things to do. But they're under the umbrella of the category of is what? Bringing Mashiach. That's all, that encompasses all the details of Shlich. Like it was said many times, and especially in the last months and the last weeks, what the rabbis say, Shekavar, the rabbis announced, Shekavar kolo kitzim. This is in the Talmud. In the Talmud, this is in the Talmud. They said this about 1,800 years ago. Let's see where it is. Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin, page 97. You can look through, there's a whole 2 or 3 pages talking about Mashiach. Interesting things. Most of the knowledge we have of Mashiach comes from these few pages of Sanhedrin. So it says, we've all the projected endings when Mashiach is supposed to come have already finished. So already finished, that means that there's not going to be a Mashiach, the time has passed? No, we're saying no. The Mashiach, when he comes right now, he's tremendously late. He has to come any second. And that was the announcement of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Shekavar Asu Tshuva, that the critical mass of Jews have already returned to God. Ad Shekavar Saimu Kol Inyani Avoda. We don't have to do any more general work to bring Mashiach. Individually, we have to work to accept this fact. Which says the Rebbe, it's ready, everything is ready for the parade. Even the buttons have been shined up. We are now ready to receive the Mashiach, actually. So the service of Shlichus now is to be prepared actually to receive the Mashiach in actual fact. In this, it's understood that in this expresses the goal of the Kines SHLUCHIM. What's it there for? To specially talk about and to bring about resolutions, good resolutions, in order to actually do them. A ketzad how levatzea tashluchos, to carry out, to actually manifest our mission, miucheret kabbalat b'nei Mashiach, to bring the Mashiach tzidkenu. So in this one paragraph that the Rebbe spoke about to the shluchim, and he's telling about the whole purpose of the shlichus and the whole general theme of shlichus, which should permeate every detail of the shlichus, is to bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe repeated this in this paragraph, I think 7, 8 times, right? And these few words, almost every single sentence is talking about Mashiach. And so that's the goal of Chabad and the goal of mankind, and especially the goal of the shluchim of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said that really every Jew is a shliach, but these are special shluchim. These are specially sent. Specially sent. This is the, how do you say, the elite forces. Oh, the elite forces. Let's explain this of the shluchim that are now gathered together with Mashiach. Connection is the connection to the shluchim and the shlichos to the Mashiach will be understood when we explain the connection to the Mashiach himself with the whole idea of emissaries. Emissaries. Now, a person can ask a question. Listen, this whole thing of Mashiach and everything, this is God. I mean, let's take an example, Moses. Mashiach is going to be somebody exactly like Moses, it says. Moses was the first redeemer. Mashiach is going to be the last redeemer. Who chose Moses? God. The Jewish people didn't do anything to bring Moses. They didn't send emissaries out to make sure that every Jew was excited about Moses coming. Moses was chosen by God. And God told Moses, the Jewish people didn't even know what was going on, right? True, they were expecting that someone would come along. Moshe said, pakad pakadati. He said these words which are like the code in order to get him accepted. But the Jewish people didn't exactly know what they were waiting for. They didn't know what they were waiting for, right? And nevertheless, God did not really prepare the Jews. He sent Moses. Moses came along. Why not say the same thing with Mashiach? What do you have to have emissaries for? What do you have to have people going out and explaining to the Jews and getting the Jews, sending out? Where do we get this whole idea of making an emissary in order to bring Mashiach? Why is it? And you should know there's a lot of religious Jews, in fact, all of the religious Jews, that agree with the first point. Mashiach will come on his own. He's going to come on his own, like Moses came, right? We just have to be ready, in a general way. We pray for him every day at Semach David Abdacham, Tatzmiach, and maybe Goel, even Ebeneim. We pray that God will bring the Mashiach, but, we carry on our normal lives and, we do our thing and God will do his thing. Why do you have to have emissaries that their thing is God's thing? That he's going to explain to the Jewish people, encourage the Jewish people, prepare the Jewish people, inspire the Jewish people for Mashiach. Mashiach, 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 Mashiach here, Mashiach there, Mashiach in the morning, Mashiach in the evening. That's the idea of the shluchim. They have to Mashiach. Where did you get this idea from? Why does it have to be the shluchim? Mashiach. Let there be shluchim that bring people close to Chabad. We want to make our group, this as powerful as possible, as big as possible, right? That's our meaning. Chabad should be big. And that's why we're making this, right? That's a good idea. Or even, let's say, we want to strengthen Judaism, right? The more Jews, it hurts us to see there's so many Jews that don't know about Judaism. And so we want to encourage them to be good Jews. That's good. What's wrong with that? So the Rebbe is saying there's nothing wrong with that, but those are details. Those are details. Those details have to be permeated and encompassed by Mashiach. That's our real job, to bring Mashiach. So the question is, why? Why do you have to have Mashiach? Why not just do it like Moses? Just come Mashiach and they'll just wake everybody up. That's what all the other Jews think. Why does Chabad have to be different? That we're sending out emissaries, and our emissaries are not to make Chabad greater, not only, that was also very nice, why not? And not only to make Jews more religious. In fact, the only purpose that we're bringing it is to bring Mashiach. And those are details. People become more religious, they become connected to the Chabad. It's not that, right? The main thing is Mashiach. That they become religious is important. They become connected to Chabad. It's wonderful, it's very nice. They should learn Hasidut idea. The Rebbe said, no, you got the whole thing wrong. Mashiach is the only goal. Mashiach is the only topic. Mashiach is the only means to really accomplish what I'm sending you for. And the other thing, you want to learn, teach Torah, you want to do commandments, you want to build your Chabad house, make it bigger. Well, those are wonderful things. Those are wonderful things. But they have to be permeated with Mashiach. So now the Rebbe is asking, why? Why? Why not just let Mashiach come and do the job like Moses did? What's the problem? Bir HaShaykh is the connection to serving, to being an emissary, SHLUCHIM shenesfu, namely all you people that are all gathered together, that the Rebbe is speaking to all of them. With the Mashiach, will be understood by first understanding what is the idea of making an emissary. What does it mean that you have to make a representative? Ala pasuk, there's a sentence that Moses said, Shalach na biyad tishalach. Shomer Moshe, that Moses said to God, when God sent him to take the Jewish people out of Egypt, right? The Jewish people were in Egypt, they were all suffering, and Moses was tending the sheep, and he came to Mount Sinai, heavenly Mount Sinai. And on Mount Sinai, he saw a burning bush. And he went over to see what's going on over there. And God said, Moses, take the Jews out of Egypt. And Moses said, excuse me? Hello, I just came over to see why this bush is burning. And God said, Moses, take the Jews out of Egypt. And Moses said, listen, I left the water running in my house. I just remembered, and I got all these sheep to take care of. So, I'll see you around. There must be some sort of mistake or something here. God said, listen, Moses, hello, you hear me? Yes. Take the Jews out of Egypt. It's your job. And Moses said, listen, God, send somebody else. Shalach na biyad tishalach. Send whoever you want to send. In other words, send someone else. Don't send me. Not only that, Moses had a speech impediment. So if he did say this to God, he probably said it. He couldn't. It says that Moses got healed at Mount Sinai, which Mount Sinai is going to come like about a year after this whole thing that he sees God in the burning bush. So he Moses said, do me a favor, God, send somebody else. That's what Moses said. Moses said to God, when God sent him to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. The rabbis say, Moses said in front of God, Rabbona Shalom, God, Shalach biyad tishalach, send Mashiach. Mashiach, he's going to redeem the Jewish people. Why are you sending me to take the Jewish people out of Egypt? And you're going to have to send another time Mashiach later on. The Jewish people, they're going to sin. It's too much for them, receiving the Torah and all these obligations and all this, and all of this, what's it called? Sometimes I just forget a word. It's terrible. This authority, there's a better word for it. Anyway, you're giving the Jewish people all this, these obligations and all this, and they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to do it. Mashiach, he's going to change the Jewish people. So you know what? I got an idea, God. Don't send me, send Mashiach. Mashiach will finish the job. Responsibility, that's the word I wanted. You give me all this responsibility. I don't want it. Send Mashiach. Mashiach is going to be able to do it. Al Pizeh, according to this, Yesh Lo Omar, we can say that the Mashiach, Yesh Lo Geresh Shaliach, the Mashiach himself is an emissary. Moses said, what are you making me your emissary for, God? I'm going to take the Jewish people out for just a while, and then they're going to do sins. They're going to get the temple destroyed. Moses understood what he was dealing with. Send Mashiach. He's going to finish the job. Finish the job now. It comes out that Moses was an emissary, and Moses said, don't make me the emissary, make Mashiach the emissary. Mashiach is the shliach. Shalach to shalach of God to redeem all the Jewish people. Tam Pashad, the simple meaning is that Moshe, why did even Moses even desire this, is like Rashi said on the pasuk, Biyad Acher, he said, why did Moses try to get out of this job? Because Moses said, send by somebody else, somebody else that you want to send. She'ain Sofi, because I am not going to bring them into the land of Israel and to redeem them in the future. I'm not going to bring them into the land of Israel. And even when they go into the land of Israel, they're going to do sins anyway. You're going to have to send somebody else. Yesh SHLUCHIM arba. You've got other emissaries. Since in any case, lo yeshlach HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe, since Moses is not going to be the one to actually bring them into the Holy Land, Eretz, to bring them into the land, ulios kolam latid, and to redeem them in the future, Eli yishlach shliach acher. Since God, you're going to send another emissary anyway. Sheyishlach at Mashiach, you're going to send Mashiach, that he is going to redeem all of the Jewish people from Egypt. So therefore, don't send me. Right? Why send twice, do the same job twice? Send Mashiach right now, and that's it. And we have to understand, Moses certainly understood. And especially because Moses was the ultimate level of holiness, Moshe kibul Torah miSinai, and that he was going to receive the Torah, from Sinai. It's good, my wife answered. From Sinai, that God himself knew that he was going to send Mashiach, and not just Moses. So Moses was a great person. He knew what was going to happen, and God also knew what was going to happen, that Mashiach was going to be the one that's going to really, truly redeem the Jewish people. Nevertheless, God chose Moses. K'shliach, he chose him to be the shliach to take them out of Egypt. If so, God knew that Moses knew that God didn't make a mistake. All of a sudden, Moses is giving God advice what to do. God said, listen, take the Jews out of Egypt. And Moses said, but there's going to be Mashiach. He's going to take the Jews out. What? God said, I know there's going to be Mashiach. What are you telling me something I don't know? This is the way I want it. I want it to be that you take the Jews out of Egypt. That's going to be step number one. And then Mashiach is going to finish the job. Why did Moses desire skip me and just send Mashiach now? Why? Why did Moses? Why? He thought God made a mistake. The Idach Gisa, on the other hand, the Acher, since that Moses, he was called Chachma of Kedusha. He was holy wisdom. If Moses, he knew all these things, if he requested that God should send al Mashiach, and he knew that God was right, that God wanted to send him first and then Mashiach, how did Moses make this the proposition to God to skip me over? On the other hand, Moses, if he made the proposition, there must be something to it. I mean, this was not a stupid proposition. He wasn't going against God. So if Moses said this, it must be understood that at least according to Chachma of Kedusha, a holy wisdom, and the highest of holy, complete holy wisdom, there must be a place for this. If so, why didn't God agree with him? Yesh Lomo, we can say, that it's self-understood. Because Moses made this proposition, and it's brought even in the Torah, and the Torah is true, and the Torah is eternal, that Moses said, send somebody else, don't send me, send Mashiach, is because it's written in the Torah. True, God didn't accept it, but it's written in the Torah, and it came from Moses, who was the ultimate level of truth and holiness and wisdom. Therefore, he achen et kaimo. It must have been that way. God did what Moses said. She'at oto shliach, that the same emissary that God sent to take the Jews out of Egypt, Moses, is the same one that's going to redeem the Jewish people in the future. Like it says in the Midrash, that Moses is the first redeemer, took them out of Egypt, and he's the last redeemer. He'll take the Jews out in the future. Okay, the Rebbe is going to ask the question. I mean, Moses was from the tribe of Levi, and the Mashiach is going to be from the tribe of Yehuda, from Judah. Yehuda. So how does it work out? Well, don't worry. He'll answer the question. But it's a good question. But first of all, we have to understand even a bigger question. How could Moses go against God? And if Moses did go against God, it must have been that he thought it over. It wasn't just it came as a knee-jerk reaction, right? Moses said, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. Like I said before, that was just a joke. The fact is, Moses really thought about it. Moses touched on truth. He said, Moses said to God, don't send me, send Mashiach. And God said, okay, I'll send Mashiach. You're going to be Mashiach also. You're the first redeemer and you're the last redeemer. Now, I think, as we said before, we have to just take a short step back and look at this whole business. The Jewish people never dreamed that they would actually be taken out of Egypt. They heard that it was going to happen, but they were slaves. They didn't really want to leave Egypt. They had their comfort zone. The Egyptians never dreamed the Jewish people were going to get out of Egypt. They never dreamed they were going to get out. And Moses, here we see that at the beginning, he didn't think that he was going to be able to do it, that he would take the Jews out of Egypt. So the whole thing was above nature. It was above, and that's the basis of the Jewish people. That in fact, God did it all. God did something which was totally unexpected, totally against nature, totally unreal. That's the birth of the Jewish people. So this whole story that we're talking about Moses and taking the Jews out of people, we sort of take it for granted. Yeah, every year we celebrate Passover and we got out of Egypt. But if you think about it for 1 second, these were real people just like us. And these were people who were sure that there's not going to be a change just like us. These were people that it was physically, naturally impossible that this change would really occur, just exactly like us. So we have to take this really to be serious, that really a Mashiach is going to come and he's going to do things which we never expected. We never expected. Changes that are going to be, that have never occurred in the history of the world. Never occurred. That God took the Jews out of Egypt, that was just the beginning. That was just like a sort of a how do you say, the cartoon before the main feature. How do they call it? The runner. They have a runner. They have the movies that run. But that was the intention of Moses. When Moses said, send whoever you want to, even though he knew that God knew that he was going to send afterwards the Mashiach, Moses wanted to connect the first redemption with the last redemption. That also the first redemption going out of Egypt would be connected with Yad Tishalach, the Mashiach. And the Rebbe said, that's where we are right now. We are now fulfilling what Moses requested. The Gama Geula Acharona, the future redemption, will be attached to the Mashiach, the first redeemer. In other words, that even though that Moses and the Mashiach are two different people, Moses comes from the tribe of Levi. Mashiach comes from the tribe of Yehuda. That's Beis David, who come from Mashiach ben David. But Morim al Shnei, this is two totally different things, but nevertheless they are somehow or other attached and totally unified, one with the other, as we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. Now let us learn the Yom Yom. 1 second, let's make this in.